Welcome to Speak the Truth with your host, Harold Bell.
Baseball players, America strong, now where they belong. Tonight, the move long overdue. The baseball record books about to be forever changed. Major League Baseball declaring that the Negro Leagues that operated between 1920 and 1948 will now be recognized as official major leagues. Their stats, their records, some 3,400 players will now join Major League Baseball's official record books. In addition, baseball legends including Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, and Satchel Paige will all see their official records climb. Their Negro League stats will be added to their Major League ones. Tonight, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred saying, "All of us who love baseball have long known that the Negro Leagues produced many of our game's best players, innovations, and triumphs against a backdrop of injustice. We are now grateful to count the players of the Negro Leagues where they belong, as major leaguers within the official historical record. Tonight, this new recognition, a century in the making, their rightful place." Good night.
All right. Okay. Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is Zoom Sunday Speak the Truth. What a great way to head in to February, Black History Month, the shortest month of the year that white folks gave us to celebrate Black history. But those of us who are in this show know we celebrate Black history 365 days of the year. So today our show is on the Negro Leagues. What a great way. Let me introduce my team, the people that are here, starting off with our young man, CJ Christopher Johnson. Christopher is all things politics and sports. He's been with the show since its inception. And also joining us is my dear friend from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm talking about the one and only John Hollis. He's a former president of the 100 Black Men in DeKalb County. CBS Television 46 recently honored him as a community hero for his reach back efforts in the Atlanta, Georgia community. The number of young men who have passed through his youth and RBI baseball teams into Major League Baseball read like a who's who. And I mean, read like a who's who. John is really his hero. None other than Hank Aaron. Of course, one of his greatest honors was to pitch hit for his hero. He was asked to throw out the first pitch in a new stadium named after Hank, and this is what it looked like. Could we run that video, Gary?
All right, let's run that here and see. Let's pull it out right now.
This is John Holliston throwing out the first pitch at Hank Aaron Stadium. I don't think he got him going off the field. We don't see the first pitch.
All right, that was fast. He threw it so fast. He threw it so fast.
Yeah, it's like Satchel Paige used to be known for.
Okay, there's John taking the mound right now. All right. Go ahead, big boy. All right.
Don't look back. They might be gaining on you.
I didn't see any dirt kick up, so he must have did it right.
That's right. Al,
I had a good catching.
Our next person is one of our team. She has been, you start talking about pioneers in sports media. Out of Kansas, she became the first Black woman female to be a sports reporter and sportscaster in Kansas. She left there and came to Washington, D.C. and kept breaking ground with WTTG TV5 here in Washington, where she became a sportscaster. She wears many hats. She's an actor, talk show host, you name it, and she has done it. She has been protecting my back for over 4 decades with Inside Sports, and my success is her success. I would like to welcome the one and only Miss Maggie Linton. How you doing, Maggie?
I'm doing great today, Harold. How are you?
I'm fine. Introduce our special guest.
Oh, the special guest, he really is a very special person. Phil Dixon has covered African-American baseball for over 35 years. He's written numerous books on baseball and is highly regarded for his knowledge on baseball's history and research. He won the prestigious Casey Award for the Best Baseball Book of 1992 and later received a Sabre McMillan Award for his excellence as a researcher. Phil has appeared nationally on numerous talk shows, including PBS, C-SPAN, BET, Fox Sports, SiriusXM, and the Canadian Broadcasting System. He is an international speaker and co-founder of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, where he served as the museum's first public relations director. Phil formerly also worked in the public relations department for the Kansas City Royals. So this man knows baseball inside out and everywhere in between. My friend, Phil Dixon. And I have to add, when Harold said, oh, well, we want to talk baseball, let's talk to Bob Kendricks. I said, I love Bob Kendricks. And I know if I call, he'll call me back. I said, but if you want to talk Negro Leagues baseball, you talk to Phil Dixon.
That's right.
That's
Phil.
it. Here he is. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Thank you.
All
Well,
right.
thank you for that great introduction. I hope to live up to those great expectations. But I've had, actually, believe it or not, I'm going into my 6th decade of doing research. So imagine.
Wow.
So
Okay.
So got a lot of things going in my head. I'm just ready to talk about it when you guys ask me the questions.
Okay,
That's right.
Phil, let's start out. Tell us about this Major League Baseball, this latest thing they've done. They celebrated 100 years. I've been trying to figure out for a long time, what are they celebrating? Of course, they brought in the Negro League as a partner. Tell us what is that all about? How did you see that, Phil?
Well, I'm not completely sold on it because, having worked in baseball and having done baseball history for as long as I did, I know that now the Negro Leagues are profitable. So it's a commodity now. And when I first started, heck, nobody cared. I go back to the days when Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle were all alive, and I couldn't hardly sell the Negro Leagues worth nothing. But after all those guys died, all of a sudden they discovered the Negro Leagues because they had no more of those great names, legendary names. And so I think it's interesting that they're only taking those leagues that started from 20 various leagues, but black baseball goes back to 1860s. So all of those people will not be a part of this whole inclusion. In addition, any games that were played outside of the league, which means many exhibition games against Major League Baseball players, those won't be included either. Anything that happened in Puerto Rico, Cuba, Mexico, where a lot of black ball players, and let's just face it, black ball players had to go where the money was. And the money wasn't always in America, especially in the wintertime. So they played all these exhibition games and played winter league play, but none of those were count. And so, I do have some reservations about it, right down to how they're computing and collecting the statistics. I could go on, but that gives you a little bit of what I'm feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. John Hollins, you see you shaking your head in approval. Tell us about how you see this new merger of the Negro Leagues into Major League Baseball.
Well, I'm a bit skeptical, and it's because of the history of this great country that I live in. When it seems like they're doing something good, like Tuskegee Project, it may not be good. So you got to kind of really look into it. As Mr. Dixon said, the Negro Leagues was more profitable than Major Leagues at a short period of time, and they saw that coming. And so it wasn't so much that they wanted to do good by black people, but if they didn't allow blacks to get into the major leagues, then the Negro Leagues would take over the major leagues as far as audiences, because even white people enjoyed watching the black ball players more than they did not. So by that being the case, now that you're intertwining the Negro Leagues records to make them official, as you said, we celebrate Black History 365 days out of the year. So they always beneficial to us anyway. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing? Are we trying to figure out a way to phase out the Negro League Museum? I mean, you have the Hall of Fame, and then you have Cooperstown, and then you have Kansas City, where you have the Negro League Hall of Fame. I had the pleasure of taking a group of kids down there. I think it was 10 or 11 years ago. It was, got a chance to meet Buck O'Neil. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the museum because I had a kid on the day we went to have to catch a flight. So I had to drive him out to the airport, and all the kids went through, but my youngest son, my oldest son, they all got a chance to experience it, and they still talk about it today. One of my first players to make it into the major leagues, Jason Rogers, he still talks about it today. So as far as going back to your question, I'm not sure yet. That answers that question. I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Christopher, you're the youngest on this thing. What do you know about the Negro Leagues?
Hey, hold on for a second, Christopher. Christopher, before you speak, I wanted to introduce somebody, Harold, that came on. Bert Strain, ex-minor league ball player and pro scout that works with my program in the RBI. I asked him to jump on. So I just wanted to let you guys know that Bert Strain is on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chris, go ahead, Christopher, we'll get to Bert.
Yeah, not a huge amount of familiarity with the actual history beyond kind of what Mr. Holland said. Those great players from the Negro League, I never really viewed their stats at the Negro League versus the major leagues any differently. It was like I didn't view that as lesser accomplishments or like that was a lesser league. But I also share the same skepticism of the MLB at this very late, better late than never to include those stats into their overall totals to try to cash in on this era of, Black Lives Matter, wokeness, trying to do some symbolic inclusion. Not to say that those stats don't deserve, and that's not a good thing that they have finally would acknowledge that, but to try to cash in on the wave without actually addressing more of how do you get more young people and more, Black people involved in the majors. If you want to integrate everything, then let's figure out a way to make baseball a more attractive sport for Black people. Honestly, when I was in high school, nobody was really trying to play baseball. There weren't, a big demand of kids running around on baseball fields. It was like basketball, football. That's like beyond it. And I know a lot of other communities that are like that. So would be interested in how to combine that interest in that renewed interest, mainstream interest in Negro League to garner new interest for a new generation.
Okay, Bert, welcome, Bert. Welcome to Zoom Sunday and Speak the Truth. Give us a little background on you. Tell us how you feel about this new merger. Unmute yourself, Bert. Unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate John getting on me and sending me the email to get on. I didn't know about it, but it sure is great. My opinion about the stats in the Negro League, I'm from West Oakland, California. Played minor league ball, played in Japan, spent time with the national coaches in Cuba, worked with a lot of players that's playing in the big leagues. I got 5 guys I work with right now in the big league. One of the issues, and I'm hoping that at some point in time you address it, Ken Griffey Jr. just was awarded a position with MLB in reference to diversity. And I responded to his Instagram or tweet and simply said, the issue is we don't have Black ownership. If we have Black ownership, then how do you think, or you guys on the line that are players or know about players, how do you think the field would look? The difference in the type of play, what would we be doing? The reason why white people, and I'm saying people other than African Americans, came to the Negro League because it was entertainment. Go to Japan and watch them play. Watch the pom-pom girls on top of the dugout. Watch the music. Watch what's going on. The Negro League was entertainment. I fall asleep at a big league game now in the 3rd inning. There's only 2 things going to happen real good. There's going to be a lot of strikeouts, no running, no hit and run, no bunting, ill-adjusted strategy, and all of that. So all I'm saying is that, and I told Griffey Jr. because I know his dad played the minor leagues against him. And I said, you guys need to push for Black ownership. I'm talking about real Black ownership, because I'm in the South now for the 2nd time. And the best athletes in the world, and I told John Hollis this, see, I came from Frank Robinson, Beta Benson, Tommy Harper, Curtis Flood, Jesse Gonda, Pumpsy Green, all from my all same neighborhood. You follow me? So these are guys I know from Joe Morgan. Wasn't Joe Morgan, it was Little Joe. So you bottom what I'm saying? So what I'm saying to us, we got to have black ownership, because in the South, there's not enough scouts. But I scouted on the West Coast, and we always used to laugh and giggle at the brothers in the South because you can't get 2-3 games in a day. Period.
Incoming call. Press Uconnect phone button to answer. Phone call completed.
You can't get 2 or 3 games in the South. And I'm not saying the guys are lazy, but PBR and Perfect Game, you know darn well, hands on, eyes on. That's how you scout. That's how you project. We don't have hands on anymore. There ain't no scouts working out young brothers or having them work out and say, little man, let me share this with you. Let me show you how to do this. Let me work on this. When we went to San Juan with RBI, when we went to Curacao, there wasn't no scouts of other color. Every scout there was that color. And every scout was working out those young players. So therefore, when they became a draft eligible, they had all 30 teams looking for them. So that's all I got to say. But it's really a treat being on. You guys got a nice format, and I'm hoping to be involved with it. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, I mean, aside from what I knew and heard growing up from older relatives about baseball, I was never really a baseball fan, but I did learn more about the Negro Leagues and got more into it when I met Dwayne Sims about 20 years ago, and his involvement up here with the Negro League Hall of Fame. And then I started doing my research on Buck O'Neil. Of course, I already knew about Jackie Robinson. So, but like CJ growing up, and I'm a generation older than CJ, it wasn't that much emphasis on playing baseball. Although growing up in the city in DC, at Lamont Riggs, we played baseball. We had coaches, and they would tell us about the strategy and how to do things. But growing up just wasn't that big a deal. But I can connect with the entertainment value of what I've seen in the history and on films of the Negro Leagues and how the athleticism and entertainment value.
Maggie?
You're on mute.
I'm old enough to actually remember seeing these guys play. And you know, talk about Jackie Robinson, but there's Don Newcomb, Roy Campanella. I actually had his autograph. I met him before he actually got into the car accident. And then I used to see him when we'd go to visit my aunt in Harlem. You know, he ran a liquor store up in Harlem for years. So you'd go by there and he'd sit there and tell you stories. You know, it was just, I'm old enough to remember some of the truly great players who wound up going into the majors, but I can also remember that fringe group that I got to see of Negro Leagues who put on exhibitions in and around, because Kansas City was always a hotbed for baseball, and that was my dad's favorite sport. So do we need leadership? Yeah. Are there things still wrong? Yeah, but you know what? Get in the door. And that's me, the eternal optimist. You're putting your foot in the door and then you change the rules as you go along. Eventually, if you're not even in the park, you can't change the rules. And as Bert was saying, you know, you never know what position he could be in to help open that door and make them more aware. But if you're standing on the outside looking in, you can't get it done. So is there more that needs to be done? Yeah, no doubt.
I'm going to go back to Phil, and I'm going to go back to what Bert was saying about ownership. That's what blows my mind, man. How are we going to keep going? We keep going for anything. You know, we got these guys pretending that they're minority owners. They don't make any baseball decisions, hire or fire, but they put these black faces out there and they smiling. They send one guy in who I had nothing but the utmost respect for him. They brought him as a minority owner, and he was told to go fire 2 Hall of Famers. Get rid of them. Well, how can you do something like that? How can you sleep at night, man, when you allow these white folks to bring you in and tell you to fire the black guys? Phil, tell me how you feel about that. These minority owners who are nothing but, you know, they just placed out there, man. Phil, you hear me? Phil, are you take yourself off mute, Phil? Can't hear you.
If Phil doesn't want to respond, I'd like to say something about that.
Okay, we'll come back to Phil. Go ahead, Bert.
You have two African Americans, major executives. Mike Hill, I work for him in Tampa Bay. Mike Hill gets fired by Derek Jeter. They bring in somebody from the Mets or from New York, no experience like him. Mike Hill did 45 of those trades to get the Marlins where they are now. 45, major player. Didn't get the new job with New York Mets. They hired some guy that they just had to fire in a month. But more importantly, Mike Hill is now working for Major League Baseball. I don't know what capacity, but he's there. So I'm hoping Mike knows. I mean, he's very astute. He's either a Harvard or Yale graduate. So he should have a job in Major League Baseball, but he doesn't. And some of you may remember, we had a major candidate from the South, very good friend of the creator of RBI, John Young's friend, that came in to become an owner, a billionaire. I didn't say a millionaire, billionaire. In Major League Baseball, because of the setup, all the owners have to vote you in. That's why we don't have black ownership. They have to vote you in. So now you got a guy that was a billionaire, had all the money in the world, like Lerner with the Washington Nationals, and they say, oh no, you got to divorce your holdings. Well, wait a minute. Everybody else didn't divorce away from their holdings. So bottom line is difficult, but until you get ownership, forget the dumb stuff, because they're going to scout differently, they're going to play differently, they're going to strategize differently, and they're going to be, most importantly, win. The key is winning. That's the deal on it. That's all I got.
All right, Phil, can you come on in now, Phil? Can you hear us? Phil Dixon, can you hear us? Can't hear you.
He's got to unmute.
Are you on mute?
Phil, my call.
Are you there?
Lower left-hand corner. Click that button.
Can't hear. John, why don't you pick it up there from while Phil tries to get himself straight? John Hollins, go ahead.
Well, first of all, to try to get back on track on your conversation in the Negro Leagues and what has happened in regards to them deciding to go along with the stats and us celebrating Black History Month, 28 days, the shortest month out of the year, and all that entails. I just think that we as African-American men and women have to continue to tell our story. If we don't tell our story, then people will tell the narrative for themselves. So I think everybody on this call, which you probably already do, but Bert is new. So everybody on this call should make sure that they touch someone with this interview and what is going on today to talk about the Negro Leagues and Black history and baseball and how do we promote it, and drive them to not only Harold Bell's site, but also blackamerica.com, and start getting more people involved. I'm trying to get some of the ball players that have played for me, as Harold knows, Kyle Lewis, the American League Rookie of the Year, is one of my players. And we need to just get these kids that are young men to get on some of these calls this February and talk about subjects that are near and dear to their heart, the game itself, and try to drive more viewership and more involvement, because if we control our own narrative, then we can change what's going on. And what happens is, Harold and I talked about this earlier today. Sometimes the bright lights in the big city will make you somewhat forget where you came from. And I don't mean that negatively, though it sounds negative. What it means, you can get so busy and caught up in the hustle and bustle and be caught up in the fame and fortune and the Bentleys and the ladies and the houses and the clubs, and all of a sudden, you really don't see that this is only a short period of your life, and it's going to pass by. And once it passed by, as a Black ball player, what have you done to make the game better? What have you done to make young people understand what you've gone through to get where you are right now? And the thing about Hank Aaron in the Negro Leagues, those guys, many of them in the Negro Leagues, they worked a job. So they got a chance they were regular people, but when they got on the field, they were gods. And they started doing so well that they started making enough money where they didn't have to work a regular job. But they were so used to working regular jobs that they intertwined with the community. People knew them at church. People knew them at work. People knew them in the community. And so it was different. Now, once you make it to the major leagues, you're untouchable. You can't really get close to them. With COVID, I was going to go out with Kyle and watch him win the American League Rookie of the Year. And I told him I'm going to fly to Seattle. And he said, Coach, they won't let me talk to you. I can't come close to you. He said, come out, but I can't even talk to you after the game. I can't come close to you. I can only do virtual. I'm in a bubble. And if I break that bubble, then I'm on a quarantine, so I can't do it. Now, I know we're dealing with COVID, but in reality, they have a bubble also when there's no COVID, that they protect those players from listening to other people because they don't want that influence. They don't want the influence. They want to make sure that they control the narrative. And that guy, all of a sudden, you know, his advisor, nothing wrong. First of all, I'll say this, that everything Black ain't good for you and everything white ain't bad for you. So let me be clear on that. But then I'll let you know that you'll see that now his financial advisor is a white guy. Mm-hmm. Advisor is a white guy. And his wife is a white girl. You know, all of a sudden his whole narrative has changed. And these people make him feel good. They say things that make him feel good. And all of a sudden, that Negro League ball player that we knew, he can't be that guy because he's not in the community. What grounds you is that grandmama, that aunt, that person that keeps you grounded, no matter how much money you make, that you still Johnny. You still, I promise you, when Hank Aaron, the narrative of how Hank Aaron was had a lot to do with how his community kept him grounded. We have to keep these young boys, the guys at Burton, he keeps them grounded. They call, Zoom, talk to the boys. You know, you got to try to stay grounded as much as possible. So I think it's great that the Negro Leagues are going to be honored. Have to make sure that Mr. Dixon and others that are in control of the Negro League Museum and Hall of Fame, that we're pushing out a narrative. They need to give them a blog on MLB where he can speak once a week about league baseball and the Negro Leagues and what the Negro Leagues were and what the players were. We need to find a way to make sure that from an advertisement standpoint, we're promoting the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. So I'll say that and jump off.
Okay. You know, one thing, these bright lights in big cities that we talk about, what they create is spooks that's set by the door. That's what we do. That's what they create, spooks that's set by the door. Maggie, where did Phil go? Phil gone? We lose him?
I think he's having some technical issues.
Okay.
I've called him and I've texted him, and I haven't heard back from him. So, you know,
Maggie,
it's not like we'll keep trying, huh?
Yeah, pick it up from there, Maggie. Go ahead.
Well, I agree with everything that everybody says. You know, I think about when LeBron James, you know, when the things down in Georgia started and they were bringing people together, and the women's basketball team said, we're gonna make a statement. And one of the owners of that team was a woman that was running against Ossoff, okay? But they said, we don't care who owns us. We're going to go ahead and do what we need to do and what we want to do. And that's exactly what they did. And sometimes the wake-up call, well, actually most times the wake-up call has to come from within. And you have to decide which side you're going to stand on. If it's the stand of right, or if it's, I'm just going to go with my boys. And there's a difference in where your mindset is and what you want and what you need. And I agree with everything that everybody said. Ownership is the way the true path. But even with that, sometimes you never know where that help's going to come from. And I'm still saying, open the door, let me in, and then I can start changing the rules. I think Phil's on with us now.
Yeah, look
Phil,
like
are
he's
you
back.
there? Can you hear us, Phil? Phil, can you hear us? Phil still can't hear us.
It looks like he's frozen.
Look like he's frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gary, pick it up, Gary.
Well, just like, I mean, like Maggie, I agree with everyone that said ownership is the key, but you can't make change if you're not in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and we hear a lot of about Black people, usually former athletes, being involved in sports, and they always use the term, oh, well, they're part owner, but the percentage of ownership is so small. When I talk about owner, I mean, it's like having a nice title in a corporate setting. And when I go into corporate America and I go work with clients, I always say especially the Black folks, I'm not really that concerned about your title. I'm more concerned about your influence. What kind of juice do you have around the boardroom? And usually the people with the big titles, the Black people, they don't have a vote in the boardroom. And so that's what I'm usually, I want, the title doesn't mean anything. It's your influence and what kind of a difference can you make in that organization. So that's what I'm looking for. Mr. Dixon, are you with us now? We got you.
I got kicked out three times. So
never quit. Hashtag never quit.
Go ahead, Phil.
I got back on, and I had two broadcasts going at once, and so I had to go out of one. So anyway, no, but I heard a lot of the conversation. You know, one thing I might add to this is this is something that most people don't know. Having worked in baseball, I met a lot of African Americans who worked in sports. You know, there's been a lot of lawsuits settled out of court that never have become public. And so these are people that I know in baseball whose story has not been told about the racism that is existing even today. So that's a whole nother thing that most people won't talk about, because the people who are involved, you know, they've been sworn to silence.
Okay. One thing we got to understand too is the old saying that as long as the Lions don't hire the proper PR team, the narrative is always going to be controlled by of course, the folks who own them, or the hunters. Will be controlled by the hunter. And that's what's happening in baseball, in football, in basketball. They are controlling the narrative. In baseball, you have less than 10% African Americans on the field or on the roster. Jackie Robinson broke the door down in 1947. And here we have less than 10% of African Americans playing on the field. But every day at Jackie Robinson Day, they put number 42 on everybody. If they just put them on the Black African Americans, you will see how many African Americans that we have out there. And that is a big problem, man. They control the narrative in NBA, NFL. And like I say, when these brothers come in as number one draft choice, they go to a white real estate agent, and he places them where they want them to be. That's what happens. This happens over and over again. We're going to get back to Bert, but I want to come to Chris. Chris, you've been listening to everything that's being said. Tell me how you feel about this as a young man.
Well, I kind of think it kind of comes back to full circle when you talk about the lack of ownership and the influence that has on the product in terms of just how they present the games, like we were talking about earlier, the excitement of the games, the tempo, just the swag and presentation that might bring in some of those new young Black people to give them an interest in the sport. Lack of ownership directly contributes to that. And, you know, not having any, as my dad said, any Black voices in the boardroom or with any sway, even though they might be in symbolic positions of power, you can feel that lack of influence come down in the product. Like, I also believe that, like, I respect baseball, but it gets boring. It gets hella boring in just the way they present it in terms of the pace of it and, you know, they're still very traditional. They got 60-year-old skippers wearing full uniforms and weird etiquette that is just, you know, they have fight etiquette and just weird stuff that it's weird. And it's not always easily packaged to the young Black urban community. Like I said, Ken Griffey was a star when I was growing up that we could relate to. Ken Griffey had the signature shoe and kind of got that interest, but there's how many Ken Griffey Juniors are there in terms of young Black stars that really connect in that sport, that they really push, that they really, you know, encourage and market.
Okay, Bert, I want to come back to you, but first, Gary, let's go to that Kurt Flood interview with Don King. Let's hear what Don King has to say about Kurt Flood.
Okay, let me make sure I think I got that one pulled up here.
Mm-hmm. Because I want to come back and talk about that.
Yeah, keep talking just to make sure. Hang on.
Yeah. One of the things that seems to be, they're having this secret ballot when it comes to Hall of Fame. You don't know who's voting for the Hall of Fame. You don't know who's voting against you or who's voting for you. I don't understand how they allow something like that to go on today. You don't know who's controlling the ballot. And they keep guys out. They done kept Maury Wills out forever. He revolutionized Major League Baseball when it comes to stealing bases. He revolutionized, but they don't want him in the Hall of Fame because somebody he slept with. Gary, can you find that?
Is this the one with Don King?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that one ready. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's pull this one up.
Kurt Flood, I mean, he suffered for what he did, but he broke down where guys can make millions, but no one contributes back to the cause of the effort of what you're doing. You got to work the land, plant the seed, cultivate it, water it, nurture it, weed it, and watch the crop come in. And if you don't want to go through that type of work and sacrifice and the struggle, then you will not get the benefit of the bumper crop that you seek.
It was, speaking of Kurt Flood, Vince Coleman made a statement some years ago that he had no idea about the contribution of Jackie Robinson, and he don't know what Jackie Robinson opened up him. Here's a Major League Baseball player telling a reporter that he don't know anything about Jackie Robinson.
Well, this is the ignorance of what's going on. Not only the Major League Baseball players, many people look at it just as a form of entertainment. We have to look at it as a way of life for those who are in the struggle that's trying to get economic fulfillment and becoming part of the mainstream of the American economy, you know, and it's a very difficult thing. And I mean, you really don't know Black history. You don't know that his contribution is the contribution that we have made to this nation. And it's very difficult to understand. So the people of the day, if they're not taught this awareness, if they don't know this history, then they're ignorant of this history. So, you know, they're really not educated. They're educated to the degree of academic theorization in theory. In practical implementation, they're not aware of that. You have to have a street education as well as a college education. You know, then they both coincide together, and then you extract what is mutually advantageous to both you and the society in which you serve, your community. We don't have that type of sensitivity, and we must get that type of sensitivity. Because of that, we remain as one. I can be Harold Bell. You the hottest thing going, then I want to be you.
Okay.
Is that good?
Okay, that's good.
All right.
That was Don King and myself talking about how is it that Kurt Flood is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Bert, how do you feel about Maury Wills being kept out and these guys being overlooked? And you got people sitting there, ain't never played the ending of baseball, but they're holding up the vote and keeping people out. Kurt Schilling just said, take him off the ballot. You know, I don't want to be on the ballot anymore because the politics are really killing this induction. How do you feel about that, Bert? Can you hear me, Bert?
Look like he might be frozen.
Okay, let's go back to Phil. Phil, how you feel about that?
Oh man, you know, my favorite player growing up was Dick Allen.
Oh yeah,
they pretty much boycotted Dick Allen.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget about Al Oliver. That's another one. That
Al came to San Francisco and did some PR work for my company in San Francisco when he was with the Giants. So I know Al. But what I'm saying is that, as I told John, when these players are youth players and we're teaching them,
when they get to the pro ranks, we have to continue to remind them, just because they're going pro don't mean that the pro guys that they're teaching them happens to be somebody's cousin or brother, don't happen to know more than we do. They get bamboozled that these guys in pro instructional league know more. They don't. And it's a trust factor. Dontrell Willis, give you an example, 2003, Rookie of the Year, All-Star team, won the World Series from Oakland. He said, Coach, here's $100,000. I want you to take this, get these kids, put some uniforms on them. And I bought these uniforms to Atlanta, Georgia right now. But the key is trust. When they get there, those Major League Ball clubs say, well, you can't really run with that guy you ran with. So when you get to the hotel in San Francisco at Park 55, you're not Dontrell or Jimmy Rollins, you're Houdini or Joe Blow. They make them change their name. They go through a litany of stuff so their friends, family, and brothers can get in touch with them. That's the way it works. So John knows this. When I tell a guy, help you to get to the big leagues, when I call you in the hotel, I'm not asking for no money. I need 4 tickets, 4 field passes, and I want you to autograph for these kids. That's it. And if we don't get these brothers, you guys saying 10%. I'm working with some big league guys this past week, and they say it's 2%. That's obscene. I'm hoping it's not 2.
Wow.
That was for a short season, but it's obscene that these numbers there. And it's all because of, let's go back to the original thing. If we increase our numbers back to where they were, and the Latins and the Taiwanese and the Japanese come, who's getting hurt? Whose numbers are going down? The Caucasian players. They own the team, their players ain't going down. Their percentages don't deviate that much. Ain't no brother sitting in the big leagues as a utility guy. No, if you don't start, you ain't on the ball club.
Wow.
So I'm really disappointed that Major League Baseball didn't utilize the designating hitters. That would have gave more brothers jobs, but no, they didn't. So I'm really thankful that you're talking about Curtis, because Curtis should be in the Hall of Fame. When Curtis did his thing, went to Europe, painted, came back, Curtis was darn near destitute. He died destitute. All them cats had made millions of dollars. One of my teammates, Bob Boone, a white guy, my third baseman that moved to catcher, got $1 million contract. I say, man, if it wasn't for Curtis, you wouldn't have got that money. He said, you're right. But who sent money to him? Reggie Jackson didn't. Ricky didn't. All those guys didn't send no money to him. And all of his memorabilia was sold in huntsauction.com, from his checkbooks to his driver's license to letters, his gloves, his socks, his shoes, because he didn't have any money. And that's obscene. And that's because of the brothers. I'm going to put it on the brothers. Hello.
So pick it up from there, Phil. Go ahead, Phil. Pick it up from there.
Well, one thing, I kind of really agree with that. I would even go as far as to say, they took Kennesaw Mountain's name, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who was a pretty prejudiced commissioner of baseball, off of the MVP award. Well, I'm listening to him. I'm saying maybe I need to start petitioning for the Kurt Flood MVP award, because he's never gotten his just due. And,
all right.
One other thing I might mention too, my last book was called The Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour. And this is another problem that we have from the writing standpoint and recording the history, that if you think about it, you can't name maybe 4 Black people at the most, if you challenge yourself, who have written books about white players, historic white players, say it's the Babe Ruths, or in my case, the Dizzy. That is a territory that is unchallenged. And so I wanted to break that barrier amongst many other barriers I've broken over the years, and I pretty much broke it. But here's the interesting thing. I did not get one national review on that book, but the book sold tons. It was because people talked about it and saw the information in it. And it was called The Dizzy and Daffy Dean Barnstorming Tour, Race, Media, and America's National Pastime. And believe me, I tried to change the way we talk about baseball, but it's something that having a black guy write about old white guys is still not accepted.
Mm-hmm. You know, you open up a can of worms there, Phil, because I've been saying this forever. And I told Harold Michael Harvey, who was supposed to be on here with us, but he came down with some pain in his back, that I get tired of seeing Ken Burns write our stories. You know, Ken Burns, he never walks in our shoes, but he writes all our stories. He locks down PBS. He writes the Jackie Robinson story. He writes the Jack Johnson story. He writes the Martin Luther King story. Man, we got to start writing our own stories. You're hitting it right on the head. They don't allow us to write white people's story, but they can write our story. I want to, Maggie, I want to pick it up from there, Maggie.
Well, I agree. That's it. I mean, you know, but again, more of us are starting to tell the story, and you know, a lot of it has to do through self-publishing or whatever however avenue you can find. And then, you know, I was listening to somebody the other day talking about how, isn't it smart that parents are now introducing books at their homes written by Black people and stuff like that? And I go, well, that's what I grew up on. You know, we had sepia magazines. We had the Black writers. I have an old Zora and Neil Thurston book back in, you know, The Sign. But it's always in our home. It was the awareness of being Black and proud and knowing that our story was being told by somebody. I mean, we had the Black newspapers that came in, the Kansas City Call, you know, I can't remember, I want to say the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, but that was the regular newspaper. But our family always had it. And that's what we have to all do to make ourselves more aware. It doesn't just begin because somebody owns something or somebody's playing there, but starting at the youngest age, letting people know that Black people have been a part of this country and moving it forward. And the stories that need to be told are still many more that need to be told, but there have always been people out there putting it out there if we've been willing to look. And that's why I loved having Phil on, because he's told the stories. He's helped make that Negro Leagues Baseball Museum what it is. And we have to be open for listening and looking for the positive things that we have done and supporting the people who have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Phil.
John Howard, go ahead.
I got a quick question for Phil. A couple of personal questions. One, do they still have the Buck O'Neil tournament out there?
No, they do not.
I have a feeling they might have stopped after he passed away. And we need to do that and try to invite as many Black teams. The kind of money that we have to pay now to play in tournaments for exposure, we should have a World Series of college baseball one weekend at the Buck O'Neil and call it the Buck O'Neil World Series and have all these Black colleges come out there and play in a tournament and then do the same thing in the summer with the kids. That's a personal thing. The other thing is you being a research buff and knowing the information. My grandfather, Robert Hollins, they called him Bobcat, played for the New Jersey, and I don't know the New Jersey Negro League team name, but he played for New Jersey. And in the book, it just says Bobcat. It doesn't say his last name. And I was wondering if you could research some more information on that, but they called him Bobcat because he could fly. And my uncle was just like him, fastest man in the Navy when he went in, 9'6". I don't know why I didn't get the gene.
I want to ask everybody, you know, I know we give everybody on time. I want to ask you guys, what is it about the Jackie Robinson Museum that is not up and running? Baseball got more money than all the sports in the world, but they keep putting Rachel Jackson and her daughter on hold and getting money for this museum. She's been trying to get this museum built for over, I know, close to 10 years. And I asked Michael Wilbon on ESPN in the dressing room one time. I said, what, Mike, why is it we can't get Jackie Robinson Museum built? He said, look, I'm meeting with Bud Selig, man, Harold, in a couple of days. I'm gonna find what's going on with that. I ain't seen Michael Wilbon since. You know, what is it? Does anybody have any clue what's holding up having this museum built? Anybody?
Well, let's see. I don't have a clue, but I've just added it to my list of things to check on. And I'd like to know why too, because as far as I know, there is no museum for a black ball player in this country. And I hope I'm correct. I can't think of any, but
well, Muhammad Ali has his museum, but he's not a ball player. He's an athlete.
Oh yeah, yeah. Right. I'm talking specifically baseball right now.
Oh no, no.
Okay, so but you know, with all the great players we've had, but you know, I can name white players who were not as good as those who do have museums, and so you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I know Major League Baseball, you know, according to 2017 statistics, was worth about $35 billion. And I know they've given the Negro Leagues Museum $2 million. That's a drop in the bucket. But that's just one organization. That's just one organization. And a lot of the things that have contributed to black athletes being prolific in the major leagues really didn't start at the major league level. They started at the people level and community places like that. So unless we go back to that, you know, I'm afraid that, you know, we're going to be stuck about where we are for a considerable amount of time. Can I also mention something on Ken Burns?
Go ahead.
Ken Burns did his baseball series, and this is in the 90s. And Ken Burns, people contacted me. And at that particular time, I had a really hot book. Matter of fact, it opened up a lot of conversation about it. But Ken Burns, they wouldn't let me on the air. I was a young black guy. I was still actually probably in my 30s at that time. And they wouldn't let one at pictures from me. And so years later, probably at the end of that year, after Ken Burns's baseball came out, somebody called me and they said, we want you to come to New York because we're giving Ken Burns Award. We want to give you the same award. And I said, well, why are you giving me the same award? They said, because we know he got it from your book. And so Ken Burns, you know, I've always been kind of lukewarm. He does great work. Black guy like myself who was in his 30s and had the top book could have added a whole lot more to that conversation. And if you ever look, find out that he only uses one black historian, and that's Dr. Gerald Early out of St. Louis, who was not a baseball historian. And there's no black fans who are talking. There's only a few Negro leaguers, but when he talks about Major League, changes the whole narrative. And that, but you know, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to the wind.
You know, you're right on the one about that. I did an interview with Muhammad Ali in 1974 after he beat George Foreman. And when he got back, I was the first one that he gave an interview to, not Bradley, not Howard Cosell, not Brian Gumble. He called me. And that was 1974. I still got that interview. And you know what? Ken Burns had Jonathan Ng call me, one of his right-hand guys, wanted the Muhammad Ali piece, and he wanted it for nothing. I said, man, no way in hell am I giving this to Ken Burns. So he'll do me just like he did you. And this is happening, man, until we start controlling our own narrative. Man, they're on top. I mean, that's why we don't own any major media vehicles. We don't own no CBS, no ABC, no NBC, no all of them. We don't own none of them. They own all of them. And every time we get a major outlet for media, they buy us out. They take it. They take it and run with it because they don't want us controlling our own narrative. I don't know when we are going to wake up, when we're going to start networking with each other. All we want to do is be spooks that sat by the door. Gary?
Well, you know, tomorrow's Black History Month. Start. We talked about that a couple of times on the show. We live it 24/7, 365. Mr. Bell, look, you're walking Black history. I remember growing up in DC We lived on a hill up on North Capitol Street. I used to put my little transistor radio up by the window to see if I can listen to WOK and hear. And I think for all of us, one of the things I'm getting from this show is the importance of mentorship and how important it is, regardless of your station or where you are, is mentorship. I mean, and that's one of the things I appreciate about you, Mr. Bell, is the mentorship that you've created through your decades of work. And even when I turned young pup CJ over to you, you know, and I'll tell you, I sit here on this show and I listen to CJ and I'm surprised because I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? Yeah. So I would just say the 24/7, 365, and I'll be quiet, but maybe we can end the show talking about you, Mr. Bell, being the walking Black history fact that you are. I'll cut it off there and pass the baton. And CJ, since I threw you out there, talk to Mr. Bell and probably tell him something that he needs to know about what he's done for you.
He opened all the media doors for me and gotten me just about all the exposure and been the perfect type of mentor for my style of media, because what I like to do is just call it how it is and tell the truth. And that's Mr. Bell's specialty. That's what he does. He's the OG of truth telling. He gets it done, and he does it regardless of whose feathers get ruffled. Things, you know, he says what needs to be said, and what people are too scared and what people tiptoe around because of the politics and whatnot and things like that. But I think we're in a new era where people are fatigued with the lies. We just had a president that was an exhaustive liar. We have more lying going on from our politicians and the media and the mainstream media and the whole fake news era. And people are fatigued, and people can really tell between what is genuine and what is not. And he's the most genuine person in the media game that I've, had the privilege to work under.
Hey, Mr. Bell, I really appreciate who you are, because I'm from the West Coast. We didn't get a lot of you from the West Coast, but I knew who you were from the older guys. Now, let me tell you this. I got a treat for everybody for Black History Month. New book called The Jersey. Is written by my identical twin who played pro ball, spent all the time we spend together. And it is a nonfiction and fiction. The true story, the first African-American to play in the major leagues was William White. He played one game. He got 4 at-bats. It's in the Baseball Encyclopedia. The story was originally written in the New York Times in 2006. My brother took 14 years to write this book with the research and everything. It's out now. You can get it on Amazon. But what he did is that anybody that purchases alvinstrain.com, 10% of the funds go to RBI Metro in Atlanta for the kids. But it's a great read. It's the beauty of it. You're going to see something in there. I can't flip the story for you, but it's going to tie right back into the Negro League. We're doing something with Bob Kendricks in Kansas City with a book signing there. But more importantly, it's a true story with a whole lot of other good stuff. I'm in it.
Okay.
Well, hey,
what's the name of it again, please?
It's called The Jersey.
Okay. Thank you.
You'll love it. Great read.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder there, Bert. I was going to talk to Harold about trying to bring your brother on and you, since it's Black History Month, to kind of talk about it and talk about your journey, not only in the minor leagues, but from a major league scout to winning the, the story of winning the
American League World Series.
American League World Series in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 1960. And
Strom Thurmond.
The game-winning home run, and they gave the winning trophy to the white boy that lost.
Strom Thurmond gave him the trophy. Governor Wallace was standing there with him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I think for Black History that'll be a great story, and I'm going to try to encourage our kids, what have you. But that'll be up to Harold. I wanted to talk about Harold briefly, in a mentor to me. I met Harold on the streets of Washington, D.C. I brought 50 kids up to Washington, D.C. to visit the Civil Rights Museum. And we wanted them to experience Black culture in D.C. So we knew of the first minority-owned business that we were aware of, Ben's Chili Bowl. And so we took them all to Ben's Chili Bowl. And who was there? Harold Bell. So he first began to insult me by saying, "Oh, you with the 100? Them Negroes don't never do nothing." And so we hit it off right then and there. I said, "I got 50 kids in here eating hot dogs, to eat sausages." And you saying, "Oh," he said, "Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the one up in D.C." Long story short, our passion met each other for truth, for helping people, and for making a difference in kids' lives through our influence and our resources. And so, you know, it's funny because you guys may not know his nephew, Donovan, is the NBA slam dunk champion of 18. And I think he just received a humanitarian award or something of that nature. I can't remember exactly, but doing stuff in the community. What wonderful thing would it be to bring those two worlds together to allow Harold and him to that NBA family of all those people. If we can just get him to sit down with Harold and do an interview on history and on the community and on what's going on. I just think that we are blessed. I told somebody a month ago about Hank Aaron. I've been, and Bert's aware of this, I've been for the last year trying to build a sports, health, and wellness community center in the name of Hank Aaron. I've had a lot of people say that they're interested and they're willing to do this or that, but nobody's really willing to put up the money. And so in that process, we've identified a location. We were feeling good about it, and Hank Aaron passed. My point behind that is none of us on this call are going to live forever. We have a national icon on this call in Harold Bell. All the things he's done with Muhammad Ali, with Hank Aaron, he had interviews with Hank. All the people he's interviewed, all the things he's done in the community, the riots that he stopped in Washington, D.C., during the riots, it's so much history there that we need to push that narrative out in our own networks for this show next week to try to get as many people as we can to jump on and do something about Harold. I mean, I know he's not gonna ask for it, but he and Hattie are like my aunt and uncle now. You know, I call them to see how they're doing, and you know, I'm blessed to have them in my life, and Tiki and I really believe that. And so as you guys go about your way, CJ, I see so much promise in you, brother. I mean, you are so far light years ahead of where I was. I can't speak for Harold and community involvement. You know, when I was your age, I was all about me. And, you know, you seem to be someone who is conscientious of politics, the community, right and wrong, and trying to change the narrative and being able to speak your truth. And know that your truth is always just your truth. It doesn't mean it's always the truth, but it's important that you speak it because the truth will come from that. And so continue to be on that path. And I feel blessed to have gotten to know all of you guys through Harold Bell. And I just hope that we can take this show that comes on Sunday and push it where others can hear what's going on, because it's some great information. And I know Harold and Hattie are gonna live to be 110, but you know, so we got to do something before it's too late. And I want us to start pushing that narrative if you guys can. So I'm done. I thank you, Harold. I thank you for friendship. I thank you for your mentoring. And, you know, I got another one just like you down in Atlanta. His name is Bert Strain. And, you know, we don't see eye to eye. You know, he think I know everything, and I think he know everything. So, you know, that's something that don't work out too well. But, you know, I learned a lot from him. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are in my life, because my father passed 21 years ago. And you don't get to have that black man that are like us every day. They're just not, they're slowly fading and trying to be what society wants us to be. And I think we should be able to be proud black in who we are. You know, I don't think we need to change. We just need to make sure others decide to change and do better. So that's my spiel, and I'm good.
Okay, Maggie.
Oh, and I hope I'm not the one who's closing it out, but
No.
you and Hattie both know how much I love you, and how the one call you made to me back in 1980 is still, we're still on the line. And, you know, because we just have to be aware, but we have to be proud, and we have to be in search of who we are and what we've accomplished. It doesn't, you know, whether it's in the sports world, which I, you know, am completely wrapped up in, will always be, but just the other many accomplishments. And we have to be able to help open that door and have all people be accessed. You know, when both Larry King and others died this past week, Hank Aaron and things like that, I think about the one thing that I was taught long time ago, and don't burn bridges. You know, we were all talking about networking and mentoring and things like that. You know, if you open the door, somebody that you may not particularly care for may come through, but that doesn't mean that they won't open the door for somebody else that they do get along with. And we have too much little pettiness and picking at this and complaining about that. But what we need to do is, as much as we can, get out, move it forward, and just keep helping each other expand the knowledge of who we are and what we've accomplished. Like sitting here today with Bert, it's like, oh my goodness, all the stuff that I've learned, you know, the inner workings. We see the big shiny stuff on the outside. One of the things I have to say about baseball right now is, because there are Black players on the field, they think, oh, Black people are out there, but they forget they're from the Dominican Republic, they're you know, Puerto Rico, they're from Mexico and things like that. And again, the narrative is being looked at one way, but we know there's something else that's completely different with the Black African American players being left out. And as Bert said, and Phil and John have all said, that door needs to continue to be open to get that Black interest. See, I like going to baseball games because I know it ain't just about the game. It's about watching the people in the stands and making comments and stuff like that. That's the joy of going to the game. It's not just watching the baseball players, because yes, it can be boring, but my dad and my mom, because of the way we were raised, always made it fun too. Talking about the people in the stands, who had the best food, you know, that kind of thing. And growing up in Kansas City, well, geez, you know you're going to get good food, you know, whether it's from Gates or Arthur Bryant's, and now there's Q52 and a bunch of others, but you know you're going to get some good food in Kansas City. So that's part of the fun of going to a baseball. And I think we have to bring that joy back. And it's not just about what's on the field, it's what's in the stands too. So those are my thoughts.
Okay.
It's rambling, but it's my thoughts.
Okay, Phil, before we get out here, let Gary close it out. Why don't you have the last word, Phil?
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for having me on today. I'm intrigued by Bert's story about what happened down south in the 60s. I got to hear the rest of that, so I'll be calling, trying to get Bert's number to hear the rest of that
number. I got you. You ain't heard the whole story. It was a ride and everything else. Yeah, you ain't heard
I know
that.
I hadn't. But you know what? I love those stories. And this is what we have to realize, is that, you know, this history is in our communities. And if we don't seize this history and begin to tell our stories about our people, it's going to be lost. And I'm so proud that, you know, at age 20, you know, I started looking at baseball history, and this is after playing and seeing all types of racism that was going on. Once I got away out of my Black community, that's when I started to see it. But I've just been writing about it ever since. And so just getting a chance to talk about it and all the things that need to be said, they really need to be said. But, you know, and if when I talk to young people, one thing that I always try to tell young people who are going to be writing is, one of the things that continues to affect me the most is people not citing their sources. And if you're going to be writing, cite your sources. And if you're going to be speaking, cite some sources, because you're getting this information from somebody. And I'm sure lots of people have gotten information from Harold Bell and never gave Harold Bell credit for it. So cite your sources. And CJ, that's one thing I would leave with you today. But I just want to thank everybody. I really enjoyed meeting you all. And hopefully I'll get a chance to talk with you again. And Bert, we got a conversation coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Maggie, for always.
Please get my number. Please get my number.
Okay. Before we get out of here, we start talking about, there are a lot of things that have gone down. Gary, this is my clutch hitter, designated hitter on my left, my wife, Hattie, of 52 years. She's been my pinch hitter and everything. But Gary and I are working on a very important project of community policing that I've been involved in, man, for 50 plus years, working out in the community with youth gangs and with cops. And this guy here was a friend of mine that gave me a police badge in 1968. They brought me in and swore me in as a cop and gave me only a police badge and no gun. His name is Tillman O'Brien. And he's about police community relations. And we want to get this book out, man. We want to be able to give it away, to cops, to black cops. If white cops want one, sure. But this tells you how to be a real man and be a real cop. And that's what it's all about. And Gary, as we get out of here, as you close out, will you run 60 seconds of the National Association of Black Journalists video for us so we can go out with that?
Sure. And as far as the Black Cop book, Tillman O'Brien used to be come in our homes. They used to have, my mother was a DC cop. They used to have study sessions. And so that's how I got to learn Chief O'Brien. And I reached out. The woman who wrote that book back in '74, her name is Ina Friedman. She's 95 years old. And so I found her today and sent an email. Hopefully she can respond back, but she has an active email. And so hopefully we'll see what we can do, but we're going to work on this presentation to make sure we get that book in. But let's look at some Black history as we close out the show. Mr. Bell, here we go. Come on now.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the 31st Sam Lacey Pioneer Award hosted by the NABJ Sports Task Force. I'm Ron Thomas, the director of House College Journalism Program, and your co-host.
They're interesting. They taste like they got some graham crackers.
Get a quick glimpse at today's honorees.
Welcome to the 2020 Sports Pioneer Awards, presented by the NABJ.
You tell me when to stop, Mr. Bell.
Here are today's honorees. Washington, D.C.'s sports talk radio great, Harold Bell. In 1975, he was the first Black golfer to compete in the Masters. Lee Elder. Legendary D.C. youth hockey organizer, Neil Henderson. The first Black official to call an NCAA men's basketball championship game, Jim Howe. Veteran sports announcer for both BET and ESPN, Charlie Neal. A Hall of Fame NFL tight end and the league's first Black general manager, Ozzie Newsome. A two-time WNBA champion and now an assistant coach with the Washington Wizards, Christy Tolliver. The 1962 NL MVP and a multiple season leader in stolen bases, MLB great, Maury Wills. And now, your co-host.
Okay, we can go out of here with Maury Wills. Thanks. Hey, guys, thanks so much for being here on Speak the Truth. And until next time, got to have all of you guys back, man, because this was a great, great history-making program. And what a great way to go into Black History Month tomorrow. Until next time, I'm Harold Bell. And remember that every Black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, you can color me gone.
Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.